and it's coming for me.
Give it up, give it up, give it up.
I love it. I love
Yeah,
it.
you set the stage, Sister Fran. I can see why they say your music, your sharing is important. And we ought to do it as much as we can as Black men, Black women, people as a whole ought to be doing sharing culturally all the time, because culture is about it, what gives us life. And you ain't got to be no professional to do it. You just share whatever you're feeling, singing, telling a joke, talking about your family. That's cultural sharing. And we don't do it enough. People want to be entertained too much. So I would just say, you just did that naturally, Sister Fran, and it came out so beautiful, and we all can do that. And I would say whatever group you're with, whether it's a Black men group, you got your own group, it might be a Black women's group, it might be a Black, white, Latinos, whatever it is, you got to take time out to do some cultural sharing.
Yes.
It brings life to our work, because we always want to get the task done, but cultural sharing will slow us up, because whether you're a Black men group, we've all been influenced by the white dominant culture. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And we be responding even as Black men's group and don't even understand it. We were perpetuating something that was put on our minds when we come outside our mother's womb. So cultural sharing like that can slow us up and make us think more differently, but at the same time bring life to our work. Because we can be a group of color, but it don't mean that we have not been influenced by the white dominant culture. Are we clear on that? I mean, make sure but some brothers say not me, because we know we deep, we profound, we talk revolutionary, liberation. We talk about Black Lives Matter. That don't mean there ain't confusion. And if we're going to be effective in our work, whatever our work may be, whether it's a Black men's group, women's group, individual, we really got to have to understand when we talk about systemic racism. So again, if you don't mind, brother, I'll just kick off and see again, thank you all for allowing me just to share a little bit about just whatever comes to my head. And Sister Fran, thanks again for, setting a real human tone to this discussion. And again, I want to thank Brother Greg, who him and I forget that.
He's our hero.
Yeah, because him and I sit down one day and said we ought to there were a lot of Black men that were coming to this training with child advocacy. And that's a whole nother discussion there with child advocacy. But sometimes when you talk about systemic racism, politics can get in the way. If you're talking about getting along with white people, that's one thing. That's not doing with racism. But we were talking about systemic racism. We're talking about not holding hands with white folks. We're talking about get the same equity they get, and that kind of thing. So, and Greg and I, we sat down a few years back, and all these brothers coming to the workshop, but we thought it was important to bring that collective together, especially some of the stories that the brothers would talk about, the different jobs they got, working at universities, working with nonprofits, and all the stuff they had to deal with. We thought it always was good when there's opportunity to bring Black men together, Black women together, people of color together, on and on and on and on. Because we know any Black person that works where there's white people at, you're not going to have the same leverage unless you united with us, unless you got a strong family, unless you got a strong community. Other than for that, most Black folks, men, women, whoever it may be, cannot work in a white dominant culture without some of their life being taken away from them. Now, is that clear? Does that need to be more clarity on that? I want to make sure when we talk, it's not a debate or question. I'm just sharing what's been good for us to understand. And it may not be good for you, but if it helps you, use it. If it doesn't, no love lost. I want to make sure we're really clear on that. again, my name is Ronald Chisolm. I'm a community organizer. I'm based here in New Orleans, Louisiana. I've been organizing all of my life. I started organizing when I was, I don't know what my age was, but I was organizing in New Orleans. How many folks who've been to New Orleans before? Who've been to New Orleans? Raise your hand. 1, 2. How many folks would like to come visit? Just check it out. That's okay, good. Good. So, y'all think Indianapolis got some challenges. Shit, y'all ain't seen nothing. You come to New Orleans. Shit, we a mecca of confusion in many ways. So, as I was organizing in New Orleans, in an all-Black community, you heard of the French Quarters, haven't you? The French Quarters were the commercial, a lot of dancing and drinking and, all kinds of stuff going there. And most tourists, that's where they go at. But right adjacent to the French Quarters, one of the oldest Black neighborhoods in the United States called Treme, Treme, one of the oldest Black neighborhoods in the country. And you hear people about Creoles and all this other stuff, but that lot that comes out of not Treme, but in Louisiana, we come out with all these different colors and mixtures, and y'all got that in Indianapolis too, I believe. Although everybody got all different. We call it colorism, and it's discussion you got to talk about. What does that really mean? And in a full workshop, we could go more in depth on it. But I'm trying to give you a picture where I was doing community work, never had training. I just want to help people. And what I realized later, if you're gonna read it, it's all Black community. But if we're gonna be helpful with anybody and giving them a service, we must understand racism, systemic racism, and the various manifestations of racism. Are you following me? Again, you ain't got to agree. I just want to know if you follow me, because you might say, well, this ain't for me. That's okay. But there might be a question along the way, because I'm gonna pause at one point and if there's any questions. But I just wanted to help you. I was doing like a social worker. I think my brother said he's a social worker background. Is that right? Yeah. So okay, good. Well, our experience with most social workers, when they come out of social work school, they're not really taught what systemic racism is. And even in some historically Black universities, I want to make it clear. There's always an exception to the rule. They might give you a 101 kind of a class. They might invite Angela Davidson and talk about race and gender and all that which is all important. But most universities do not have understanding systemic racism as part of their curriculum. And we worked at we worked at many universities: Columbia, Fordham, NYU, Hunter's College, Dillard University in New Orleans. And so when social workers come out of social work school, because social work is a helping profession. But many social workers, when they come working in communities of color to do their what they call it, their outreach work, they come in to help communities of color and don't understand racism. Then most time they cannot be effective by helping communities of color, because most communities of color has been affected by systemic racism. Are you following me? But every other kind of issue too, but systemic racism. Now, tomorrow morning, Friday and Saturday, because of the George Floyd and they got Chauvin, they found him guilty on all charges. A lot of the organizers, at least 20 or 25 that have been working in that neighborhood, we're doing a 2-day workshop with them starting tomorrow morning, Friday and Saturday. Now that they've been out there, effective mass demonstration. Now talking about systemic racism, now we got to put it in an operational way, because talking about it is one thing, but now we got to, so in the training we do helps to put it, to really operationalize what we mean by systemic racism. So going back to me organizing in New Orleans, I would organize Black folks to go downtown and deal with the man. I did that for years, and every time we would organize as Black folks, getting ready to go downtown to fight the man about bad housing and slum landlords and environmental issues and all these things. When we get all together, about 20 or 30 of us, go and fight the man, we would march downtown. And what happened, we wound up fighting each other. Did that ever happen to anybody in your experience?
Oh, yeah.
For the Black men's group, if you belong to any group, and I don't care what level, not just, it could be professional, people of color, any level, there's something about us fighting and doing a job on each other. If you have not been in that, have you ever seen that before or heard about it, where we fight each other in the Black community?
Oh, yeah.
Give me a head shake if you've heard of it before. Because if you haven't, then it's coming. You're going to get it. You say, well, I ain't never heard that. Ain't never happened here. Well, then what group you work with? Because you ain't got to belong to no group. You can go get a job. You got another Black person. If y'all don't have some clarity about what's going on, y'all be fighting each other for the same position and all this other kind of nonsense. So when I realized that, I kept doing the same thing. I would organize and fight people. We'd win sometime, but I couldn't understand, why did we fight each other? And what I realized later on, if I'm going to be an effective social change agent, if I'm going to be effective as a Black man trying to make a difference, I must understand racism and what that really means. And what I found I've been doing this for 40 years. And what I found that even in the Black community, we confuse about racism. We talk about it every day about what the man doing this and then discriminated and done this and done that. You know, we understand police killings. We understand something about racial discrimination, but we don't have an analysis about systemic racism. Are you following me so far? I need a couple of head shakes. Now, some people who on the screen, for some reason, they don't show their face. That means they can't get in, or they're busy doing something else and they're kind of listening.
Just kind of listening.
Okay, I just need to know. Okay, good. I just want to make sure. No, that's okay. No, and look, sometimes we got our family stuff, we got our children, we got take care of your business. I just want to make sure that you were hearing us. So if you got to do something, that's no problem with that. I'm good. I just want to let people know, for me, their body language and what they're hearing is important, because it helped me to know what energy to put into it or not. Because so anyway, do what you need to do. I know you're with me, so that's okay if you got to go back, because we got families. You know, we got to feed folks. We got to do a lot of things, and this around that time too. I know 5 years. I know what's going. Because we do Zooming all the time. Now, so that's when I began. I said, you know what? So I looked around. I don't have any college background. I got mostly, finished high school, did a little business, but because when I came up, they told me I was not college material. You know, I'm almost 80 years of age. I'll be 80 come July. And you say, well, you could went to school. I know I could have went. But during that time, if you took a test and you failed, it affected your whole community, not just me. So I got a lot of community experience. So I went to check on, anybody ever heard of a man named Saul Alinsky? For people who met Saul Alinsky, Alinsky, he like the grandfather of organizers. And here's a group called PICO, IAF, Industrial Area Foundation. These are organizing groups. And I went to school in Chicago to get some of his training. And Saul Alinsky was a hell of an organizer. I learned a lot about group dynamics, how to do strategy charts, how to do tactical research. I learned a lot. And I went back to apply these great skills that I had learned from Saul Alinsky. But as I continue to do my work in my community in New Orleans, the skills were very helpful, but it still didn't talk about racism. And when I realized Saul Alinsky didn't want to talk about racism, he wanted to give us tools and skills. And when you do your work, you got to have tools and you got to have skills. But then what I realized, if you give somebody some skills, and they haven't dealt with their racism, they can become a skillful racist. and get certified. So what I realized, I didn't blame nobody. I said, if he doesn't offer me to understand racism, then I'm gonna start my own training group. And so 1980, a little before 1980, I met a brother named Dr. Jim Dunn that was teaching at Antioch College in Yellow Springs, Ohio, got a PhD from Columbia, and he was a social worker as well. And him and I went we met in New York, because I had an organization, he had one. We didn't know each other at the time. Then when we met in New York, we went to a meeting in Philadelphia called the Black Independent Political Party. And a lot of Black leaders was in Philadelphia. And Jim and I went there, we took a train together from New York to Philly. And on that train ride, we decided, you know what? Let's you and I put our own training organization together to make sure that every Black person, whatever kind of work they're doing and whether they're doing any organization at all, if they're going to be effective for our salvation, they must understand racism, how it affects them, how it affects their grandparents, how it's going to affect their children, and wherever they work at. So that's when we started the People's Institute for Survival and Beyond, where we do a 2.5-day workshop explaining what racism is, the definition of racism, on and on and on. So I give you a long time about what we do and why we do it. And the question is that why should we even have a need for a Black men's group? Why we need Black men's group? The major fact, because of racism. You know, why do we need a Black men's group? Why do we need a Black women's group? Because we've been left out of the process. Black men, what happened to George Floyd, it's been happening since Emmett Till days. There ain't nothing new. You know, so we need a Black men's group to understand racism. If you know, and y'all started a Black men's group, we started a Black men's group, and part of it was to give services to people, but make sure as we give that service, that we begin to help the people we serve to begin to have a critical consciousness why they even need help. Is that click? I want somebody to respond to that for me. What do you think I mean by that? Because I'm saying, why do we have a Black men's group? And why we thought it was important that as you give services to the community, and you've done an effective job, you've done another thing you've done effective as a Black men's group. How long y'all been together?
5 years.
Roughly. 5 years. Most Black groups don't last that long because of internal fighting, because they got other things they got to deal with in their life, you know. So that's something that most groups don't, and I can tell you out of my own experience. So what do you think I mean by why do we need a Black men's group, and why it's important, whatever services that we give, whether it's the seniors, the young people, to really understand racism or to do your work in an anti-racist way? What do you think I mean by that? Anybody?
May I comment?
Please.
I think especially in today's time where you see a lot of women that are promoting independence, the need to not need our Black men, the need to not need any men. That's all you're seeing. You see these commercials where my husband pointed it out, where there's a commercial, I think it's like a Dawn commercial or something like that. And these women, these partners are belittling their men, you know, and you see it more with, I know you see a lot of interracial couples on these commercials now, but especially with our Black couples, they're belittling the men. So we're in a culture where it's more acceptable to think that we don't need our men. And like somebody else pointed out, you hear the feminist movement. The feminist movement is for white women. It's for white women to try to compete with their white men. And so if they wound up trumping their white men, we as Black people still had to compete with these white women, you know. So the black feminist is not conducive, because we are supposed to be aligned with our men. We're not fighting with our men. And because you hear white women say that, you know, we're, you know, independent, they never say we're independent, but we don't need our men. we are the only women that tend to tag that part on there where we don't need our men. And we say it's so derogatory, excuse my language, but these niggas ain't none, just negative things. Why would you talk about our men like that? And that's what we're seeing. So to have a group like this, where there is unity, there is communication, and there's validation, there's education, it is important because we don't see enough of it, and it is there. It's just not shown. And so it needs to be shown in the communities. It needs to be on the ground, and it needs to be relevant. And it is, and it's not, you guys, I don't feel like you allow women to participate, but it's nice to see leadership in our Black men. It's nice to see our men leading our women, our men leading one another, our men uniting with one another, not uniting with one another, and doing that for our children. So that's my take on that.
You're right on target. You're right on target. When you check the history, there was something called Equal Rights Amendment, ERA, many years ago. And they're talking about women's rights, but really it was a white women's movement. Because after they won some of their rights, then many of them left Black women on the side. That's actually correct. And every time there's been a movement, populist movement, labor movement, a civil rights movement, every time we've had any movement, racism has stopped the movement. When you check history. So what you just said a minute ago, like when we talked about the Black men's group, this Black men's group, and I remember Greg and I are talking about this, we cannot let nobody, even though we got a Black men's group, we got a Black men group, and part of it has to help strengthen our family, our women, our wives, and because they got some even Black groups talking that same nonsense about, trying to put the men on the side, and some of our men trying to put the women on the side. So that's a real issue. It's got to be looked at and studied even more closer. That's the plus with this group. So we got to talk about the positive thing that this group is doing in a very strong way. So Angela, what you just say, it can be talked about more in depth, and we need more discussion about that. That's critical consciousness. That's exactly what we got to be doing when we give a service to people. Because you got some Black men groups don't even understand that, and being played all the time. Somebody else had their hand up real quickly about what, in addition to what Angela shared about why you got to have a Black men's group, and the importance of raising critical consciousness as we give services to people. Well, that's important. Any quick thoughts on that? I see your names. I would normally just call you, but I ain't gonna do that. I'm gonna let you do your own thing, but any quick thoughts on it? All right, brother Earl, what's your thoughts on it, Earl? Any quick thoughts about it?
There you go.
My thoughts on needing a Black men's group. It's really, to me, I just think we don't have a lot of Black men who get together anyway. So like, to me, to get everybody together, to have a common cause and a common need, to reach out to our own community, I think we should be, especially in our community when there's not a lot of Black men in homes, in single parent homes. I think that us being able to join together as a group, as Black men, get in the community and work with, families and young men in our community who may not have that Black man to look up to, we give them that opportunity. So, that's my thought on, why we need Black men involved, why we should have Black men groups, so.
Let me ask this question. Thanks for sharing it, brother. A lot of people that you give services to in the last 5 years, how long you've been together, do you think the people you have given services to, and you're going to continue to do that as we move further, do you think they've been affected by racism?
I would say yes.
Okay.
Because of the system that I work in, with the child advocates and doing juvenile type work, we're always impacted by the system. There's a disproportionality when it comes to, how we are serviced in that system. So, yeah.
You say yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me ask, is that Michael? Okay.
Jermichael.
Jermichael, yeah.
Hello,
How you doing, my brother? Do
I'm
you
doing
think
all right.
a lot of people that y'all give services to, however long you've been with the group, or a lot of people you give service to have been affected by racism?
Yes, because I work for the Marion County Public Health Department. I also work, with Mr. Carter. Um, I can say most definitely yes. I mean, because even when you think about the women, infant, and children, they are still in a system that's created to keep people lazy, keep people from wanting to do things on their own. So, yes, I definitely agree that um, exactly what you said. Racism has a lot to do with everything that's going on in the world today. Period. So, um, and I'm just here to help any way that I can, and so that's why I'm here.
Excellent. Sister Fran, what's your thoughts? You're an organizer, you're an activist, you're involved in your community, is what I hear, from your some of the things you do. Do you think the people you've been helping over the years, whatever you've been doing with them, uh, have you think they've been affected by racism?
Of course, racism plays a major role in any part of your life. I work primarily with youth, and so what we try to do is to establish in them pride, dignity, and to let them know that they are authors of their destiny. That, yeah, the system is going to be against you, but because it is written to be against you, you have the right and you have the tools to rewrite the scripture and the chapter. So racism, yes, I'm 74 years old. I have faced racism most of my life, especially when I moved to Indianapolis because I'm from Chicago. And so I've learned to stand tall and to let anyone know that I am as equal as you. The color of my skin does not define who I am or what I'm going to be. And that's why I raised my children. And that is how I raise my grandchildren. And that is how I work with the children that I am around on a daily basis, especially in this community.
Let me ask Sister Fran, let me ask a couple more questions on that. Those young people, as you get shared, is affected by racism, by systemic racism. Is that what I
They
heard?
are, because they are taught in these schools that they are not going to achieve or be as good as they possibly could be. I had a situation where I had a 5th grade teacher tell my grandson that there was no need for him to get an education because he could be nothing greater than a mechanic. At that point, it was a private school. I asked to meet with the teacher. I wasn't allowed that. So I know how to get to you. I'm going to go to your pocket. So I pulled him out of the school. When those funds started depleting, it started making the school start to address the issues. Do not allow anyone to plant a seed in your child that they're not going to be anything, because if they plant the seed, somebody is going to water the seed and it's going to grow. Well, I am like the dandelion killer. I do not allow that to happen.
Okay, excellent. Let me push you a little bit more now. Our children, our elders, the people we work with, and a lot of us also work with white people. Is that true?
Well, yeah, I work with white people every day. I still work.
Everybody on the Zoom work with white people. At some point, you did it in the past. do it now. You might volunteer. We all do that. Well, the question when I ask the group, and then you may not be part of a group. You might get, like you say, individuals. If our kids are affected by systemic racism every day, and not only our young people, but our community as a whole, do we understand systemic racism? I'm talking generally everybody, no one person, I'm talking just generally. Then I'll get your feedback. Do we understand systemic racism and the people we work with who are serving our children? And not only our children, we work a lot of work with adults, work with seniors. And do the Black men group understand systemic racism, really understand it as a collective? Because the system that oppresses us is institutionalized and these systems work together. So do we as Black men and Black women have a basic common definition of what racism is and what systemic racism is? And for your answer, I want you to think. I want you to pause a minute because you do important work. And it's not a personal emotional thing about whether you understand systemic racism. I just want to know, honestly about it. And if we don't, how do we do it? Because somebody said, well, I know about it. I do it every day. I know about it. That's easy to say that. But some of y'all may not be part of Black men's group. You may be working with some other networks. Work with others, and sometimes the people you work with, they're not clear about systemic racism. Yet you might be clear, but you work with a bunch of folks who are not clear, and that will come back to bite you if you don't understand it. Any comment from anybody about what you said? Do we have a common understanding of what systemic racism, and do we need to have one if we're going to be doing the best effective services in an anti-racist way? Any quick thoughts? Let me pop off and ask a couple of folks, because y'all taking a little minute there. What's your thoughts? That Virgil, right? Is that Virgil? You saying it right?
Yes, you got it. Absolutely, Mr.
Okay.
Chisolm.
Yeah.
I would define systemic racism, and I was just writing it down as you were talking.
That's okay.
I would define systemic racism as a group of policies that work in concert to sustain and recreate economic and social inequity in African Americans.
That's a good definition. And the question I'm asking, when we work with a collective, whether we put a Black men's group or any network, do the team of people we work with have a common definition? And that's something we have to examine, because we all agree systemic racism is a thing that's killing us. It ain't just no one white person doing something to us, it's the whole system. And if we're going to counteract that, we should have a common analysis, a common definition. Don't have to be ours, it could be the one that brother just said. And you can say, I just do what I just do. I don't, no, sometimes we do a job on our community because we do what we do and we don't see a bigger picture, because that's what's killing us, a bigger picture. So I would say, Brother Red, that could be a common definition. And I'm not asking everybody to say, wait, but I'm saying I want people to examine that. That's number one, to examine it, to make sure that whoever you work with, whether it's a Black men's group, you work with Black men's group, I work with some other people, I'm not even part of no group, but I work with a network of people, make sure that they understand that they got an understanding of what systemic racism is. Because I can tell you out of our experience doing this work, most organizations, most people that's helping the community do not have a systemic analysis. They operate out of a needs analysis, a victim analysis, a do-gooder analysis, or something we call a white man's burdens analysis, which means we got to help them poor folks because they really can't help themselves. Now you would never say, well, we do that, especially as a Black men's group. But the way you operate, you got to keep asking yourself, are we operating out of dealing with a systemic analysis or a needs analysis? Because people do have needs. That's correct. There's nothing wrong with that. And we should help folks with their need.
Mhm.
So I'll wait till we read it clear on that. We're not saying don't do that. But if you're talking about fighting the power and you ain't got no power analysis, what you're doing is rhetoric.
Mhm.
A lot of us talk about we're going to fight the man. Hell, we ain't got no man analysis. So we saying, one, we got to understand what racism is, because we asked the question right now to the Black men's group and some of the other people on the thing, what is racism? We'd have different definitions of it right now from Black folks primarily. And if we don't understand it, that's why white folks can kill us and deal with us, because we reacting about racism, reacting to it, but don't have a clear analysis on what it is. Any questions so far? We ain't got to, we're just sharing right now, and some of this won't, because sometimes when you give a service to somebody and you're not clear about what you're doing, sometimes when you're doing something, you don't want to get clear because you're just doing it. I'm doing it. I work 12 hours a day. I'm doing something. Yeah, because you're doing it for 12, don't mean you're clear what you're doing. And sometimes when you give somebody a service, they become dependent on that services. And that becomes a dependency model. So how do you get people out of being dependent on your service and help them to become interdependent? Any question about anything? Just, I'm talking a little bit too much now. Any quick thoughts?
On the matter of racism versus systemic racism, and I like what you said, King Gregory. I think the biggest thing is to differentiate between the two is a lot of times racism is more intentional and it's direct. Versus systemic racism, I think, like you said, I think it falls under a category of white privilege or white supremacy, where a lot of times we're all conditioned. I don't care what your ethnicity is. We're all conditioned to think a certain way, and it just happens to be that the negative, thoughts are towards us collectively, from different races. But I think with systemic racism, it's a fine line where you have people that say negative things and they don't realize what they're saying. They're just being honest because of their surroundings and their upbringing. For instance, if my son plays with little Johnny down the street, it's okay for them to play together. But little Johnny's mother is telling him, you can go over there and play, but don't get to acting like them. Don't do this like them. Who is them? But little Johnny at 8, 9, 10 doesn't say them as in Black people. He's just picking up on who them are and how we are, so he grows up to understand that I am better than them, that I behave differently than them. And them winds up when you're 16, 17, 21 is like, oh, them are Black people, that I'm thinking that way about. It's not just, Taekwon or, Javon or whoever, it's that group of people, so you're brought up to, they're not saying you can't play with Black people or, derogatory terms or, negative things. They're just trying to identify that their child and their situation is better than ours. And so by default, you grow up thinking that you're better. So my point is systemic say, well, you got 5 boys, you got a whole basketball team. Why? Because we're Black. Why can't I have a whole group of lawyers? Why can't I have a whole law firm? Why do I have to have basketball players? That's what you equivalent us to, by your systemic mindset. Does that make sense?
No, you're talking about white privilege and see that white privilege has to be discussed with the team that we all, whoever we work with our children, with our family. And when you look at what's going on in the country, every indicator in this country shows that we in the Black community are at the bottom. White folks at the top, and everybody fit in where they get in, whether it's Latinos, Asians, they go up and down the ladder, including some Africans come here. So we got to, as you talk about white privilege, but we found out we've done workshops with community groups. Oh, we've done this in South Africa. We've done it in Puerto Rico. We've done it in Harlem. We work with all Black folks, and we say, now what is racism? Since it's killing us.
Mhm.
People, they be saying, well, racism has to do with hate, bigotry. Then we say, well, can't you be hateful on sexism? So if we're going to be effective social scientists, and we just save our children, our families, our community, who's directly affected by racism, it's affected by all the isms. Let's make that real clear. But racism is the key. Then we got to understand what it is. And white privilege is, as you say, Angela, that comes from that, white privilege. But we came and talk about what is white privilege. We know it is. And one of the things when we talk about white privilege, white folks ain't got to think about racism. That's a privilege. But in the Black community, I don't care what your profession is. I don't care what neighborhood we go at. You know, we're going to think about racism. If you don't think about it, somebody going to remind you, excuse my language, every day that who you are and who we are. Is that clear? And we got to be as clear about that. We can't be running our heads and saying, you know, many times we operate and giving people a need, and we should do that. Social work is a helping profession. That's what social work is. That's how they describe it. It's a helping profession. But if you're not careful, when you help somebody in our community without an analysis, you could be adding that help could be adding to their death. Because when you're helping somebody with no analysis, the person becomes dependent on your help. They're looking for you to give something. I'm talking about out of my own experience. I ain't talking about no hypotheticals. The person that you helping has already been affected by every insult as a Black person that you ever want to think of. Now here you saying, well, I'm coming to do good because I'm giving them some bread and milk. And they should get it. It's theirs anyway. We're not saying that. But with that giving, you should make sure that you who are giving the help to the community, that you use that help to give them their milk and bread, but also open up their mind. That's number one. Secondly, if you are the helper that's serving somebody in the community, you must see yourself as in partnership with that community, not as no social worker that see themselves as helping somebody and don't see you need help your damn self. You got to use the word, you got to say, I'm in partnership with the community. I ain't doing something for the community because the community is doing something for you. It reciprocates back to you, and you don't understand. You're so glad it needs to be given because we've been taught to give. I'm not saying that's bad because we have a right to give, but giving somebody without even telling them what, how they in that situation, you have to do history with them. You say, well, I ain't got time to do all of that. What if you're effective what you're doing, you can find a short way to do it. But in the meantime, when you help somebody, you got to ask yourself, did I grow from that experience? Well, I felt good because otherwise you're doing the same thing white people are doing. You want to be in a do-good as a Black person. That's what white people do. White people go home and feel good because they helped 10 Black people a day. So they sleep better at night. And I'm generalizing. I don't mean that's all of them do that. But I'm generalizing. But out of my experience, many of them do that for guilt tripping or whatever shit they're going through. Are we okay? I mean, where we at? I need some of y'all looking at me like, well, I don't know what it is, but is it okay? Give me a little head shake, a thumbs up or something if you're okay. Okay, I don't see everybody's thumb. I see a piece of head here. Okay, good. I'm not asking for your approval. I'm not saying you got to agree with me. I just want to know if you hear it. Because people say, well, you ain't got to, I'm just sharing it with you. If you're going to do this work, and I'm not just talking about Black men's group, I'm talking about there's some people who don't belong to no group at all, just individuals doing important work. And all I'm saying is if you're going to do good, effective work, you got to ask yourself, am I adding to the data through my services? I'm adding to the racial disparities. I work in public health. Who works in public health? Somebody said they do public health work. I forgot. Somebody on the play to do it, but with public health, we work with public health all over the country. They got more racial disparities in public health than anywhere in the world. Matter of fact, they're unhealthy, yet they're giving us public health. That's how serious public health is. And I'm telling you, we work in New York, we work at Tulane University, all over the country being asked. We work at Center for Disease Control. Yeah, they're trying to fight the COVID, and they don't fight the racism in their own organization. Because racism is a disease too. But why the Center for Disease Control don't do it as a disease? It do it every other kind of disease all over the world. So I just want to put that out there to the group. Now, so in the workshop that we do, and the reason why I started to people our organization, because every time I would organize my community, we'd fight each other, and I didn't know why we fight each other. Then what I realized, when we get a chance to do a workshop, we do a thing called a power analysis. We put that on the board. It's a graphic thing. And in my community, if I told a young person I want to do a power analysis on you, they wouldn't understand it right off the top. So what I've done, I've asked young people, say, what's going on? Instead of doing a power analysis, this is what they're telling me. They say, Brother Chisolm, we hanging in there, we trying to survive, and we getting our behinds kicked. Now, when somebody in the community say they're getting their behind kicked, that's a power analysis. So instead of calling it a power analysis, if they're getting their behind kicked, we call it a foot identification. We got to identify the foot that's kicking them in the butt. Now, you as Black men and Black women, whether you belong to a group or not, you get your butts kicked too, don't you? Well, some of y'all don't even know it. You say, well, no, sometimes you're so damn anesthetized and numb, you don't know you're getting your mind kicked. Because you've been there so long, you get, and it ain't just a grassroots community. We got professional people get their butt kicked every day. Matter of fact, if you're a professional and you work somewhere, you got to be very careful because they might think you're the cleanup person. And you the damn dean of the school. That ain't gonna happen to me because they wouldn't do me that. Yeah, they do it to you. They might have done it to you already. Sometimes we get so numb to the way they deal with. So that's why it's important. If you help somebody and don't understand, you need help yourself. Because if you're a professional and you work anywhere in a professional mode and you ain't got a strong Black family that keeps you alive, a strong Black community, you're in trouble. That system you're in will co-opt your ass, dehumanize you, and you'll be, before you know it, you'll be losing your mind. That can't happen to me because I'm strong, I'm young, The system had done it to us before we got here. It done it to our mama and dad, and it can do it to you too. So there's a thing that we don't deal with in our community. We fight each other. We do a job on each other. There's a term called internalized racial oppression. What is that, team? What is internalized racial oppression? A quick, not a long rap. What do you think it might mean?
It's when you adopt all the negative beliefs that you're told, you believe them for yourself. So nobody has to oppress you externally anymore. You're doing it to yourself.
That's correct. That's correct. Plans with that. As a matter of fact, we get a message as Black people inside our mother's womb that we ain't shit. Excuse me, I got faith-based, so excuse my language, but I'm not gonna say too many words like that. And what happens is that inside our mother's womb, the institution, the system tell our mother she ain't nothing. And I believe inside the mother's womb, we as a baby can feel the negativity toward our mother. I really believe it. I can't explain it because I ain't no scientist. And then when we come here as a baby, then all the negative things we get as young Black men and women from calling us special, then we become minorities. This is a message we getting. Well, where the hell is a minority? It means we less than. I'm a minority student. What it means, you're less student? Then somebody said, well, I got a minority business, but that means you're gonna get less money because you're a minority business. Sticks and stones can break our bones, but words can create our reality. So we got to quit calling our children minority students. Well, I can't get the Pell Grant if I don't get the call. See, that's called linguistic racism. Linguistic racism. Sticks and stones can break your bones, but words can. So you keep saying you're a minority, you begin to internalize you're less than. Everything you get, you got to get a grant. You got to go to all this. And then when you go to school, they start calling you special. When I was coming up, my mom used to call me special, but that didn't mean I had nothing wrong with me. You're special. And if you're special, it means you got a learning disability. Well, really, there's a teaching disability, but we don't call a teacher that. So the internalized racial oppression, as you say, my brother, is when we get a message that it's like somebody prepared for us a sandwich, but I didn't have nothing to do with the sandwich. I ate it, but somebody else prepared for me. We get a message that that the system creates. And that's what creates some of the internalized problems. Here's an example. And it breaks down to go back now to my sister Angela. Where's Angela? Angela was saying something about the white privilege. Remember she said that earlier about white privilege. Well, internalized oppression, that's what it does. It tells white folks that they're better. It tells us as people of color that we're inferior. Through every step of our life, they told us that. That's what racial disparities is about. We can't call it racial disparity because somebody did us something bad today. They've been doing us something bad inside our mother womb until we came here. We got to be clear on that. And some of the manifestations of internalized racial oppression, let's say of inferiority for people of color, this side plays out for us. Now, white people get superiority because we work with homeless white people in Atlanta. And the homeless whites and homeless blacks in the same building. And we're doing a workshop for them. The homeless white would tell us, I might be poor, at least I'm not black. Listen to the message now. He's starving to death as a white person, but because of white privilege, he was told inside his mother womb that he's better than black people and he's starving to death. So now in a full workshop, we would talk about some of the manifestations of how white people automatically feel they're superior. But I want to take just a minute with our time we have here with us to talk about internalized racial inferiority. And these are things that play out. I don't know if they play out in the black men's group, but any group play out on the job, they play out in the church, wherever we are. Here's one of the manifestations of our pathology, of our sickness that comes from years of oppression, from the system. That's why you got to have a systemic analysis. While a lot of folks you are serving have been affected by that, because a lot of people you're serving, if they're person of color, they deal with internalized oppression. They're already dependent. So that's how you add to their death if you don't raise up their consciousness. One of them is colorism, light skin and dark skin. I don't know about Indianapolis, but I know it plays out here in New Orleans. It plays out amongst Native Americans, African Americans, Native Americans, Latinos. I can go on and on and on. In colorism, the lighter you are, the more palatable you are for white people, the more palatable. And we fight amongst each other. You can have the same mom and daddy. One's light, one dark, same mom and daddy. And the one lighter, many times will get treated much better. Is that possible? It could be in your own family. Now, I ain't talking about no hypothetical situation. You say, well, my mama treat everybody fair. Well, maybe they do. But I've seen situations where the young babies, one lighter, one darker, the mama be riding in a stroll thing, and somebody would look at the one that's lighter and say, damn, That's a beautiful child. And look at the one that's much darker. Say, damn, that's some pretty clothes they got on. Or you find what I'm saying? I'm not exaggerating. I want us to think about this because this can happen. It may not happen with the black men's group or any other group, but it does happen even within our family. Colorism. It has been something to divide us and something we don't talk about. You're gonna have the same thing on a job. Sometimes the one lighter will get the top job amongst the one darker. That don't always happen, but it has happened over the years. And you got to examine it. Colorism. It happens in every ethnic group, not just black folks. Native Americans do it, Asian Americans do it. And we know it because we've done work in Japan, we've done work in Puerto Rico, but you can see it every day. You can see it every day. Another one is ethnocentrism. Ethnocentrism. You have black folks who don't like Latinos, Latinos don't like blacks, and you got some Africans who don't like none of us. I'm generalizing. That don't mean, but many Africans who come here have been told before they got here, don't mess with no black people, mess with everybody but black people. And will also, and I'm generalizing, it's not everybody, I'll make sure I keep saying that. But we've done work in South Africa, and there were a lot of Africans would come in for the first time and would tell black people, you know, y'all don't want nothing, y'all lazy. You know, y'all don't want nothing. You know, y'all gotta get off your behind and do something. And then one day, the police will stop the African. And the African would say, officer, I am from Nigeria. Police say, we don't give up where you're from, you get another black man, let's get against the wall. Internalized oppression. That's why when you give somebody a service, if that person you're giving services to do not have an analysis about how they've been victimized, and you give them a service and they become more dependent on you, that dependency could add to their death because they're already being oppressed as a community of color. And we fight amongst each other. Not only the professional do it, the people that we serve fight amongst each other too. And a lot of poor
Brother Ron, can I give you the example of what you just said? My father, you know, was a freedom rider, and he often told the joke about, you know, just the brothers from the North and all the people coming down there to be a part. And so there were some Jamaicans, some West Indians, some, you know, some brothers from England who, you know, were part of the movement and everything. And then when they were confronted, just like you say, by the bulls, the police and everything, and is you know, you heard, you know, y'all niggas get over here, and he said that they would say, I'm no nigger, I'm a British subject. Yeah. It's like, well, you look like a nigga to me. Yeah. Now get over there. So
this is brother, this is real.
Yeah.
And why are we talking about it? Because it affects your family. It affects you.
Yeah.
And you go to a job and get mad in a minute. But some of that internalized stuff is being played out. You need to just look at it, because our children are dealing with all these forms of manifestations of oppression, and we don't even deal with it at school. They're dealing with colorism. Sometimes they got gang wars going on, and you may not know what's going on as an elder, but these forms of internalized racial oppression is affecting our children, our professionals, every day. Now, another one is called protectionism. We do workshops all over the world, and we have Black, white, Latinos, and we be in a circle doing our workshop. And in our workshop, we tell all white folks that they're racist because they got privilege, all of them. With no, we don't, the good ones, the one that we like, all of them. We say they're all racist. We say that in our work. We spend 2 days with them. We take them to a process. In a certain time of the process, we say all of y'all racist. And going back to what you said, Angela, we say, and so they get all emotional. You call me racist, you know, I'm one of the good white people. And then what happens, one of the Black fellas or women who might have brought the white person to our workshop will get up out their seat and go to hugging the white people. Talking about, it wasn't you, Sally, because you're a good white. We say, sit your ass down. This ain't nothing but a damn workshop. That's called protectionism. Mm-hmm. And some of us may have done it ourselves and think it's natural. It ain't no damn natural thing. And if you don't do what that brother did, jump out of his seat, some of us will wink at our one or two white friends. They'll wink at them. They ain't talking about you because I come to your house all the time. You're a good one, kind of thing. So that's a part of our pathology is protectionism. Then we get addiction. People work on addictions and all that. We got the 12-step program. But a lot of times racism will make us more vulnerable to these addictions, whether it's drugs, sex. I got the lady I worked with, Dr. Kimley, executive director of the organization I started 40 years ago. See, her addiction is shopping. Sister says she goes shopping at the thrift shop, and when she get turned on, when she go buy something like for $2 and she only paid $1, she feels she didn't beat the man. So that's her addiction, shopping. That's another form of our internalized stuff. Another one is called exaggerated visibility. As Black folks, we've been invisibilized. We die disproportionately. We get killed disproportionately. We get locked up in jail disproportionately. We get stopped by the police disproportionately. We put in special programs. See, all that means that we've been invisibilized. So when that happens, we have to exaggerate our visibility. It's called exaggerated visibility. And not only young people, you can be a professional in some big university, some big corporation. You get overlooked and be invisibilized. And that's why many of us got to go to these jobs with Gucci on and Michael Kors and got to wear their hairstyles so damn big to let people know I'm in charge. So we have to exaggerate our visibility. That's why we wear a lot of gold, a lot of stuff. I'm generalizing now because not saying everybody got a clear analysis, but wearing gold and wear this and wear that, because we saying you're gonna see me, world, whether you and we may not like the way it's done, but there's a term called exaggerated visibility, and that's a part that comes when the system invisibilizes you. It's like you're gonna see me before I die. You're gonna see me. We become more visible, and it happens at every level of our world. So I'm gonna stop here for a minute because I know what our time is. Any question about what's being said? I know there's a couple of folks haven't said a word listening. I see Brother Eric's on, and I see that Jarvis, and I see Justin and Brother Darrell. Brother Darrell, any quick thoughts about anything? You've been listening intently. Any thoughts about anything about what's happening?
Well, I jumped in a little late. I can honestly say, you certainly brought some things to light that we certainly really need to internalize. Like you talked about racism in the different forms. I mean, that's real, and that's something that we have to somehow communicate to our youth to understand how to move within this society. Just kind of my feedback, my thoughts.
It's good thoughts. See, because we can help the children. If we don't help our kids, see, it's important to help them, but we got to make sure they got analysis to understand why they're in that situation. Because once we help them, and we don't open their minds up and they get in those systems like we've been as adults, they could get hurt real, real bad. So you have to do the correct. Because some of us as adults don't know how to go through them systems. Eric, any quick thoughts you have? How you doing, my brother?
Always a pleasure to hear from you. Actually, I was just reviewing the notes. So was it the other Eric? Okay. I've been listening to you for the past 10 years, and this information has been so helpful. Going into these meetings and people going on what they think, and what they really just do not know. And so again, I just want to say I thank you because it's really opened up my lens to be able to see and just kind of press the button back on. The first time we met, I worked at Big Brothers Big Sisters, and I pushed the whole diversity initiative. Then I left, and then I came back and stayed on that initiative, and they were still talking about the same things when I left but they didn't want to listen. It was hard pill to swallow. Right. And so, and it's like you said, because a lot of these organizations they're running, that's all great and everything. But if you don't want to acknowledge this, then there's no integrity in it. you know. So, and that's just kind of where we're at. So I thank you, and I'm glad to be here.
Thank
This
you.
is the new baby.
Yeah, congratulations, my brother.
Yep.
Congratulations.
Okay, send me a check, brother. Thank you.
You
God
got
bless.
it. You got it. Brother Dante, any quick thoughts you have, Brother Dante?
No, just the for me the implementation. That's kind of where I'm at. I'm in the schools, and everybody's trained, and all the white folks believe in it, and all that good stuff. But when you go to implementations, when you go to putting people in positions, when you go to suspending kids and kicking kids out of school, I've questioned and made some people upset, and luckily I have some power and pull to avoid students from being expelled and suspended. But my thought process is we've done all this training, we've done the People Institute training, we've read books, but y'all still doing the same stuff. Y'all talking like, oh, that's terrible. And this needs to happen, this needs to happen. But when reality and real situations occur, you go back to the same things you've been doing, the same racist practices, that you've been doing, including hiring. And when you interview someone and they speak about being an anti-racist teacher, it scares you. I had a young lady who was the best interviewee, point blank, period. And none of the white folks in the room could believe that I thought she was the best. But she shook them to the core, speaking on her anti-racist teachings and how she would be in the classroom. So just trying to get this implemented because, everybody's woke. Everybody, unfortunately, seeing George Floyd. So now everybody feels sorry and wants to help out our people, but I'm not for sure if they really want to help out. And one thing, even on the Floyd, I want to express that the attorney general was a Black man who built that all-star team. I don't know if any of our other attorney generals that are not Black, or even some of the Black ones, will put the time and effort and resources into what he did. So when we say things are changing, that might be one brother in Minnesota who was determined to do everything he can to get that conviction. I can't trust in that we're changing as a country yet.
Well, let me put you a little bit more, Nadia, Brother Nadia. Say like at your school, you got white folks that have been trained at some level, say they're anti-racist, but don't act it out in the real, they've been to training, they read books on and on and on. The question would be is that you see the nonsense that's going on at your school at this one place. Do you see yourself as an organizer?
Definitely.
Okay, and part of an organizer is to be a strategic agitator, a strategic educator, a strategic motivator. And one of the things is that the lens, you can see a lot of stuff going on, which is most folks can't see that because of racism, their lens are not clear. You got some clarity at a level in your eyes, you can see that they're doing a lot of talking, but it ain't happening. So the question comes back to you, because you're part of that process as well. What can you do to bring a nucleus together? Because you're dealing with systemic racism inside their school system. That correct?
Correct.
Ain't no program, ain't no good Black folks gonna change that unless you got a strategy, you understand your role as an organizer, and you bring 2 or 3 people together who can see what you see, whether they're Black or white. How do you bring them together? You see, because it's not enough to say it ain't right, and you got to say, what can I do? Now, that doesn't mean you haven't done stuff already. So the question.
So what I will say, what we have done, we've started Black affinity groups among Black administrators and Black teachers in the district to approach human resources and the superintendent with the support of not worrying about being fired, because we are going in groups and not individuals, and being supportive in different buildings, because you can often be the only Black adult or paid staff in a building, just depending on where you're at and within the district. So we have started a Black affinity group to support each other and to support our families as much as each other, to challenge some of the policies. And we're in the beginning.
Okay, first of all, what you just said gives me hope. When you come out the gate, I felt hopeless. Because you don't want to have to, you there. And as an organizer, you got to bring hope to people. But then when you came back again and say, we have done some stuff, then I'm more interested in now how to get more involved. See, because as an organizer, that's what you are. You got to bring hope to people. You got to know what your job is, because you got more than just an educator there. You now talk about how to deal with systemic racism. You didn't started some stuff there. And a lot of white folks who talk a lot of shit about it, they've been to a training, or they can use the language better than we can use it sometimes. And some of them have stole what I started 40 years ago and making more money than my organization. And it happened in Indianapolis. Some shit was stolen from us. So I'm gonna put that out there. I'm saying, if you got a Black Infinity group, the question I would ask you, do that Black group have an analysis about racism? Not just because they're Black, that ain't enough. But do they have a needs analysis because they all need some stuff at the school, or do they have a power analysis? And I'm saying, what's good about it, brother, you got a group already. Black folks, just to get us together is a challenge. Now, the white folks are playing games because somebody got interviewed and they ain't really serious about it. The sister that applied, bad sister, on and on and on. But the affinity group got to become an organizing entity too. It can't be affinity group meeting because it's a Black, that don't mean because they're a Black group meeting. That's nice, and they're talking about some good curriculum, but they got to understand the reason why they're a Black infinity group, because of years of racism, and they're gonna have to know they're in the system already. You got to help them to know how to open those doors up and be more strategic. You got something a lot of people don't have. Some people are not even allowed to have a Black infinity group, but some have infinity group confused as hell. So you got Black folks can be as confused as the white folks. So I would just say, you're the organizer. Part of your role is to develop leadership. And then when you develop leadership, you got to talk about accountability. That's for everybody on this Zoom. I don't talk about racism. People forget that part of it. Anybody been to the workshop? We talk about racism as an intellectual thing. That ain't what I'm talking about. I'm saying, if you understand racism, it can direct the way you do your work. Now, in the workshop, we talk about several principles that guides my work, that guides your work. One is that you must understand history. Because you got a history, Brother Dante, before you came there. Again, I don't know your history. The school had a history before you got there. And again, I don't know what that is. Because they've been racist a long time. They ain't nothing new. And now we're giving them some tools to be able to perpetuate them more. History is a principle. Black men's group got a history. And everybody on your team got to know what that means, brother man, what your history is, how you got started, why you got started. Because you got some folks who knew, might have forgot. What is the history? Well, that ain't important. We ain't just talking about dates. History is a principle that can keep your group grounded. That's one. But another principle that has helped me to guide my work is understanding culture. When Sister May started that song, that's a very serious thing. We get so, remember that we've been influenced by white people that even as a Black group, we'll act like we white with a Black group. You say, we ain't no white people. You can have a Black group with a white agenda. But not us, we talking Black liberation, don't make no difference. You got to think about that. So understanding culture, what do we mean by culture? Life. What is giving a Black men's group more life? And not only Black, everybody on the Zoom has been your culture, has been your grandmama, has been the way you were treated coming up. Now that has gone, that old way has gone, I understand it. But that gave us life in the midst of them being disrespected and stepped on and enslaved and all that kind of stuff. Ain't no program gonna give you life. Program will let you hang on for a while, and everybody want to develop a program for our children. Sometimes them programs further program our children. So programs are not enough. So culture is another, you define culture, it's a way of life. And you need that wherever you're at. Everybody needs it. Another part of thing that guides my work, another principle, is understanding leadership. Some of y'all gotta say, okay, you can't do it by yourself, How do you develop more leadership? Some of y'all good as individuals, but you ain't that good. Now when you do systemic race, some of y'all got to develop people. Now some of y'all say, well, I don't want to work with them. Then if you don't work with that group, that means that group you don't want to work with that looks like you. That means you don't want to work with them because they deal with internalized oppression. That's why the Black men's group, I don't know whatever your challenges were as y'all develop, but I'm telling you, y'all need to recognize y'all been through a lot. Because sometimes as a Black group, we can kill up on each other. I don't mean y'all even had some differences, but to be together as Black men is almost revolutionary and still got to focus. I want to say, because that ain't nothing easy. Then the many Black groups, some of y'all say, well, I know that fraternity, I know that, but there ain't many like that. I'm talking about groups that set up now. Some of these groups, all they do is develop programs for our babies with no analysis, and they're all Black. Now, I work with NAACP and I work at Urban League. Good people got a good history, but sometimes there's something missing. I'm saying it in a respectful way. Mark Morrell, who's from New Orleans, I know him, a friend of mine, he runs Urban League. And Urban League has to do certain things to get money from corporations, right? I'm telling you, that's what happens. And, but anyway, I'll stop. So anyway, another principle is if you develop leadership, you can't develop leadership without accountability. Because I used to develop leaders in the community and the same leaders I developed turned on me. So from now on, when I develop leadership, I got to make sure they understand accountability. Another one is accountability, leadership development, gatekeeping. You know what gatekeeping is? Who knows what gatekeeping is? Yeah, Makai, yeah. Malachi.
Yeah, like when you have people who grant and deny access to like certain stakeholders and or people who like just kind of position themselves as if they're the ones to be that liaison or the passageway to success.
But you hit right on the head, brother Malachi. The people here was being said, gatekeepers, it's not a bad thing, but it becomes bad when the gatekeeper is not accountable to nobody but himself or to the man above. I ain't talking about the higher, but I'm talking about the boss. Gatekeepers are people that monitor for others, translate for others, advocate for others, go get money for others, but don't have others involved. They go downtown and talk with the man on behalf of the people and don't bring no people with them because they think they can talk better because the people act up. Well, our folks are dealing with internalized oppression. A gatekeeper have no right to go be talking on somebody's behalf on a community without bringing the community involved. And if the community that they represent is not clear and acting up, then you got to understand why is that going on. But we can go downtown with them. So gatekeeping, see, you got systems. And what the system will do, one time we had no Black folks in the system. White folks had all of the system. They still got it. But over the years, because of civil rights and fight and Black Lives Matter, all the different things, major things we've done over the years, we now are getting positions. So now what we do, we become, I don't want to say the spook set by the door, but we become the Black person that let people in and out to certain positions. A receptionist can be a gatekeeper. If she don't like what you're saying, she will never let you see the man in charge. That's how much power she got. I'm a gatekeeper right now. I'm deciding what I think is best for the group. The time we got. Nothing wrong with that. I can't tell you about community. I can't tell Brother Dante about no community if I'm not involved with it. I'm involved. I'm 80 years old. I'm involved with it every day. So I can't tell you about what you ought to be involved in the community. I'd be hypocritical. So I'm a gatekeeper, but I'm accountable. That's another principle. So if you work with any group, you say, well, I don't work with Black group, I work with another group. I work it down, it's saying, I work with a Black Infinity group. If you're not careful, that group could be a nightmare as Black folks, because the white folks will look at the black group and what they said it was okay, and we give the white folks the blessing to come screw us up. Is that, do people hear that? Give me a thumbs up. Okay, that could be any one of us now. So forming a black group is the right thing, but if a black group ain't clear, 9 times out of 10 they're gonna dance to the man music in that system and not to the blackness of what they really should be doing, especially if they ain't got no analysis. And so internalized oppression is another principle. These are things that guide my work. Whenever you get off track, go back and say, well, maybe somebody's gatekeeping. Maybe somebody don't know the history. Because you can have a group like Black Men's Group and you bring new people in and they don't know how you started or why you started. They just think they're the first one in town, and you don't explain to them and take them through a whole process. History is important. That's what has kept y'all alive. Again, I'm gonna stop here. Any thoughts? Brother James, any quick, I see you, Brother James, you've been listening very intently, and any quick thoughts? And Brother is Jovis or Jarvis, like Brother McGee, any quick thoughts either one of y'all here? I just want to make sure I don't, for my time will be up pretty soon.
Yeah, first of all, thanks, Brother Ron, for taking your time, and because I know you have a lot of responsibility. Thank you for your 40 years of commitment to excellence and bringing awareness to our Black community. Jarvis McGee, I just want to mention that he's a student at Texas A&M University, Kingsville, Texas, and he's one of my mentees. I'm sort of mentoring him. He's one of the VPs of the Black Student Union on campus there. And we both have been handpicked to be on the Climate and Diversity and Inclusion Committees. And there's been some pushback because we're trying to bring some awareness. So we're trying to bring some recognition and some acknowledgement for George Floyd, because George Floyd was a student there at one time. He attended there for 2.5 years. And so we share a special connection. Jarvis McGee and I share a special connection on what happened to George Floyd. And we're trying to bring, we're trying to actually not build a monument, if you will, but we want some type of recognition for, I spoke with the school president, and I sent an email recently to the group explaining to them, even though he didn't graduate from school there, if he earned 1 credit while attending school there, just 1, not 12, not 100, but if he earned 1 credit, we still need to recognize him because he is still considered to be a javeliner. That's our mascot. I have now been put in position. I started a not-for-profit called the Coalition. We're an advocacy organization similar to yours. Jarvis McGee is one of my board of directors. He sits on the board with us. And if he wants to say something, he can. But I just wanted everyone to know that I invited him to be on the Zoom calls to meet you, Ron, and get some background about what you've done for 40 years as far as you're paving the way and being a pioneer as far as fighting for civil rights. So if Jarvis wanted to say something.
Yeah. Before Jarvis come on, I want to say, I think what you're doing is going to be, it's important to do it. I think y'all ought to do it. And I'm getting ready to get on tomorrow with some of the organizers in Minneapolis. And a lot of folks we trained over the years. We've been working there for almost 30 years in Minneapolis. There's only a small percentage of Black folks that live in Minneapolis. It's an area called the North Side. A lot of Native Americans live there. We work throughout the whole state. We've done more work anywhere in the country. But now that people have done a lot of activist work, some of them want to get down and operationalize some of this work. So I think what you're doing is important. And Brother Jarvis, you want to add something to this, please?
Well, yes. First of all, thank y'all so much for hosting this event or hosting this town hall or whatever you want to call it. I enjoyed it. Yes, James sent me a text message and I hopped on it very quickly. I was in the middle of doing something, but I enjoy listening to messages like this. Of course, there's not a lot of African-American students or African-American faculty or staff at Texas A&M Kingsville. So I've enjoyed listening to each and every one of you perspectives. I've taken a lot of feedback on it, taken some notes as well. So again, I'm truly just here to just listen, and as I'm trying to adjust to what's going on here at A&M Kingsville and adjust to what's going on in the world. I'm here to observe, and I would continue to enjoy coming to these sessions because this is something that I need. I don't have a Black community, an active Black community here in South Texas. So to listen to different perspectives and to learn from other professional people, it makes me enjoy things like this. So again, I thank you for inviting me, James, and thank you for hosting this, because this is a lot of great information that I believe more of Black students or just people in general need to listen and know and understand how to define these terms, because that happens here in South Texas. Here on campus, I've been passed up on many opportunities solely because I believe they knew that what I brought to the table was going to shake up the room, and I'm here to get things done. And some people just want to be in positions and just be there to collect a check, and that's just not me. So again, I enjoyed all of this. So thank you so much.
Let me ask you, Brother Jarvis, and my other brother, y'all gonna try to do with George Floyd and get some recognition, which I think is in order. The question I would ask real quickly, do you see yourselves as organizers?
I would say I'm an organizer. I've accomplished a lot. I like I said, I'm the vice president of the Black Student Union, and I'm also the first African-American vice president of the Howland Alumni Association for the institution. Been established since 1925, and they haven't had a Black person on their board, which is very mind-boggling to me. So I would consider myself as an organizer as well.
Okay. If you want to get something done for Brother Floyd, again, I don't know a lot about the system, but there'll be a lot of pushback. That's just what they do. I don't care where you're at. And do y'all see yourselves, you say, yeah, I'm an organizer is someone that brings people together for a purpose or an intent. So you're going to be bringing some people together with some understanding, because when the pushback comes, you got to make sure that the people you bring involved understand why the pushback is there. Don't only say that what is pushback. The people that you're going to be organizing, they help y'all. Now, if y'all just say, well, y'all are only two going to do it, then you might be able to do it, but it's going to be a hell of a challenge. Now, if you're talking about all them groups that you sit on a committee with and whatever, are they viable groups? I'm not actually, I'm just putting this out there. Because sometimes we have groups that we on and we sit, they're not viable. Mm-hmm. And you don't need a group necessarily.
Can't hear you.
Brother Ron, we lost you in communication there. We lost
sound, Ron.
Lost sound.
Check and see if you're mute.
Me?
There you go.
Okay, you're back. You're back.
Okay.
Go ahead and say what you were saying. We lost you.
I'm a wrap. I'm just saying for both of you all, y'all got to really make sure you understand what organizing is, because there's activists, there's organizers, and what is your job as on part of what your job is not only to get the George Floyd acknowledgement, that's the major objective. But through that process of organizing to make that change, if you don't make a lot of those students aware of what you're doing, then you really miss you miss your point. Let me say it again. If you want to get some kind of acknowledgement for George Floyd, and when you go through this process of challenging that racist system that you're part of, then all you did, I'm not going to minimize it. It was nice that you got a statue or something, a picture of him or something. But through that process, if the people in that university and some of those students and some of those parents, if they don't get educated through that process, to me, you miss something. Mm-hmm. Am I clear on that? I mean, any question about what I'm saying?
And let me just, and I would like to, and that's,
do it real quickly because of time, but I want to make sure you hear what I'm saying as you begin to get through this stuff you got to deal with. Go ahead, brother McGee. What you want to say?
Yes, very quickly. And I do agree with what you're saying. And so the institution, there is a symposium that they have been established that on October 14th, which is George Floyd's birthday, we will have a George Floyd symposium. We've already got approved by the family. They're going to be a part of it as well. And my goal, since it's kind of sort of my last semester here at Kingsville, because I'm planning on going to an HBCU and applying to jobs as well if I don't get into the HBCU of the choice that I want to go to. But the goal of having that symposium will be a yearly thing that will be on October 14th for George Floyd. It's just a perspective of pushing that envelope to letting people know that this is happening, this is a concern, and our goal is to educate, because I guarantee right now, no one is having that conversation here in higher education in South Texas. And so that is one of the things that we are pushing to do.
All right. Brother
That's
James,
great.
you want to add something there? Brother James?
No, I was just going to say that I've been organizing since 1999, so I'm very much aware of how to bring people together. And what you're talking about is the lack of education and lack of communication is pertinent to having our people to come and unify, because without the education and without the, like you said, strategic planning, you lose a lot of people, and they come with their selfish ideologies and their philosophical differences, and then that creates a chaotic environment. And so I know how to prevent all of that. We definitely put out some guidelines and some principal issues that people cannot relate to or cannot agree to, do not participate or partake in the organization. And so I've been doing this since 1999, like I said, and I'm very much aware. And so that's why I jumped on this committee. And it's all about education, and also, last but not least, resources. You got to have money. You got to have money to be able to do it.
Let me just say this, and I'll wrap this up. As organizers, that you may get maybe a big thing you're going to do with George Floyd, and a lot of people, a lot of students are not aware of what's going on. A lot of students are all aware of it. The way y'all talk about it is, it's the racism that goes on there. I would, you all as a team would really want to see, as y'all begin to move on it, what people are really getting educated from what you're doing, and how do you know they're getting educated? Because you may win the George Floyd thing, like you already got okay on it, so you got victors already. But when y'all not there and going, what is that really going to mean if we don't have some people in place, and not just one or two, that would never let them, because they'll do that and benefit more than the people, the community will benefit from it. So I'm saying, and the other thing is that if y'all push too much and something happens to you, or you leave, and my brother, whatever happens to you, will that momentum still kick in there the way you have it? Because your energy could carry at a certain level if it's done in a way that gets people really sound, and the people that, so to me, the issue of George Floyd is really not the issue. The issue is how you develop people through the process. The issue is not George Floyd, and we can get excited about it, but the issue is that how many has gotten educated throughout this country what has happened to him, and you have to do the same thing inside, and you got to know, you as a team, what have we been able to do? Because we may think the victory is to get that George Floyd thing up. That is not the victory. Victory is making sure that the mass of those students and those parents, and there has to be a strategy for that. And I'm not sure what it is, but you as an organizer, I'm sure can figure that out. So that's what I just would encourage. So you had Jana, Brian, you want to add something else? Brian, you had something. It's my time, I guess.
I put something in the chat, and I just said that, given the information that we've gotten here, what's your move towards power in your circle with what you're doing at your job or in your organization? What is your next plan, your step to empowering the people that you serve? So if you could put that in the chat, that'd be fantastic, because we may not be able to hear it all because of time constraints. But you know, if you do want, a couple people want to just say, hey, I'm charged to do this, I'm charged to do that, say it real briefly, but definitely put it in the chat, because we want to, this is being recorded. We want to help others. We want to show that we are good students, good listeners of this wisdom that we are receiving here from Elder Ron. So, you know, don't leave him hanging like, did I get it? Did I hit the point? Did you know?
Hey, Brian, can I ask a question?
Go ahead, Tyrone.
Mr. Chisolm, I just want to get some feedback. I'm slightly part of this committee, and they're bringing one of the people whose son had gotten killed to Indianapolis, and they're paying a bunch of money for the person to come. What do you think about these people charging to do this kind of stuff? I just want to know.
Tell me a little bit. Who's bringing what in? Who someone's killed?
Well, I'm not going to name the organizations but they're bringing one of the people that recently killed. Their parents are coming to Indianapolis, and they're paying like $18,000 for them to come. And what do you think about having to pay, you know, for that kind of stuff?
Well, Brother Tyrone, I can't respond to it because I need a little bit more history, because you know I don't know enough about the case.
I don't know anything about it. I was just sitting in, and they was negotiating because the person, they wanted them here at a certain time this same day, and the person was saying that they couldn't be there for 2 days because they needed to get back home, but they paying them $18,000 for them to come.
What are they coming to do, brother?
I don't know enough about it.
I think they coming. I don't know. I mean, I just was kind of disturbed that you had to pay all this money for people to come to
do a service.
I don't know.
I see.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
Wait, it's a lot. Again, if I knew better, I could give a better response. I just don't know enough for the history.
Okay.
I'd be glad to respond. I'd be doing something out there way off base. You know, I don't know the circumstances of why he was killed. Is it all Black family?
The gist of it is, so I do some consulting work for the Indianapolis Public Library, and they do a lot of, we're going through a cleansing, if you will, of the race thing. And so one of the things that they're doing is they're bringing this person here. I guess they are going to talk about racism and whatever else, but the charge is $18,000 for the person to come.
I'm quite sure, brother.
And that may not be enough information.
That are getting paid a whole lot more. Some civil rights leaders and stuff that are getting paid big money to come in and talk. So, yeah, I don't know.
Well, at some point, we had more discussion.
Yeah.
You know, if I knew better about it, but I'd be speculating and. But let me just say this to the group. Thanks, Brother Time. Thanks for bringing it up. I know you're kind of overwhelmed by it, but I hope this library you work at, I hope they get some of that toxicity out of them, you know, because, you know, they need some discussion.
I mean, when you start charging and accepting money, do you lose your fight for the cause? Are you going after the money now? Or are you still, you know?
No, I would say this here. What helps to deal with that, Brother John, is that says an organizer, when the community is involved in what you're doing, and people understand what we mean by accountability and leadership development and principles, you know, people need money. First of all, the money that they got anyway is our money anyway, as far as I'm concerned. Anytime we have money, like, I never got any money for the Institute for 40 years. For 30 years, everything was fee for service. I was a nonprofit with a 501c3. And people didn't, when I started talking about undoing racism, which means dealing with systemic racism in 1980, nobody wanted to come around us. A lot of people came around me, want to help, lost their job when they knew they were working with work. Because when you're talking about dealing with systemic racism, you're talking about dealing with power. We had to really be clear about it. You're talking about, in the white folks' mind, you're talking about systemic racism, they're clear about it. We're not clear. They're talking about you coming there to take something from them and shifting the power. Because that's what's got us down is power. That's why you do power now. So if you say I'm going to fight systemic racism, what you're really telling those systems, I'm coming to fight the power and I'm getting a piece of that. That's how they're looking at it. We're looking at it for some injustice because of what they done to us, all of that. That's why when a white person who have a job at this level and a new black person come on and get a job at this level, they still ain't over the white person, but the white person feel disadvantaged. They feel disadvantaged. Even if you get a job, you're not even close to their position, but you got a raise, and they feel now that you're coming to take something away from them. That's what we talking about. So for years, Brother Tyrone, I never got any grant money because nobody wanted to hang around me because I was talking about systemic racism during 19. So everything I tell people $100 to do a workshop, a 2-day workshop. I mean, that's kind of what I did. I did it for free because, and I tell you why. All foundations, white people run them, and I never could understand how can a white foundation always have money and we never had no black foundations.
Wow.
I couldn't understand. I did understand it, but that don't mean that you don't have some black groups at some point give out money, but as a whole, white people run it. And then when I first started, I had to write a grant to get a grant, like $3,000 or whatever. That's the kind of money we applied for. I never got it. But then one time I got $2,000 for a grant. And then the foundation, where I found it, they sent a black person out to come evaluate what I did with that $2,000.
If any of these clothes are dirty, Robbie, can you get anything on the table?
And then with that, after they came evaluated me, I got pissed off because I said, how you going to evaluate me and you don't know the value of me?
Wow.
And I really meant that. So what they do, they send a black person to come see what you've done. So I felt the money that when I applied for that money, I felt it was my money that I was applying for. Because they didn't get the money the right way. They either enslaved people, they work them out on a damn sugar or something and for nothing. How do we come all this money and we don't have none? That's including all of them. I don't care. I'm a Kellogg coach, and Kellogg is multi-big and everything else. They don't want to talk about racism, that kind of thing. But I got to be a fella and I started coaching other people on it. So the last piece I would just add to the group here about organizing. How do you know when somebody put on there, they want to be an anti-racist organizer? I saw that, I don't know, put that up there. An anti-racist organizer. That means you're organizing with principles. Most folks, when they organize, they're organizing with skills and from a technical approach, skills and tools. You got to have skills and tools to organize. But if you don't deal with it in an anti-racist way, then the skills that you're organizing with will only be used better by the structure than we can do it. Because the skills that you are fighting the system with will become like nails and hammers to further the structure that's oppressing us.
That's right.
Because the system likes us to organize with skills and tools. But remember that character called Superman? Remember Superman? Some of you are old enough to remember the character, the Marvel. Superman was flying buildings and all he doing this powerful stuff. What made Superman weak?
Kryptonite.
There was something called kryptonite. When they threw kryptonite on Superman, he got weak like a lamb. They could do what they wanted. When you do your organizing inside your institution and you do it in an anti-racist way, what it really means, you're organizing with skills and tools and humanity. That's what principles will give you. The system don't like humanity, it likes skills. That's why even like you said, Brother Jam, we got to make sure when we get that thing of Brother Floyd, the implementation of it to keep it there, because no white folks will use George Floyd and make more money than anybody ever knows, unless you got an inner group inside that's gonna monitor that shit and I'm telling you, this is what I'm telling you, what they've done to our organization, 40 years. And I can name you 7 organizations that have come to my organization and took meticulous notes and wrote books about what the hell I developed. And sometimes they'll give me acknowledgement, sometimes they won't give me acknowledgement, but some of them making more money than I do. So you got to make sure you organize with principles. The system, humanity, don't like humanity, and you got a better chance of making them more vulnerable to what you want to get done. And you got to involve people. You can't involve one or two people. You got to, and lastly, what's going to be your indicator as organizers? Everybody need more discussion what organizing means. You need a common definition of what racism, you don't have to have ours, but everybody needs to have one. You need to understand it between a power analysis and a needs analysis. You need to understand that your indicator to know you're on the right track through all of the work you're doing and any work you're doing, if you can develop through this process 2 or 3 people, you know, your effort was to get something done over here, but if you can develop 2 or 3 people and you open up their minds through this process, that's the indicator you're on the right track. If you don't develop people with some awareness, some consciousness, you might win. I'm talking to the group as a whole, you might win whatever you want. But if you don't develop some key people who can see what you're doing and will be there for you, then you just went to an event. So anyway, it's about my time. I don't want to go any further. Let's just, but I know Brother Greg or somebody want to add something, you know, because I feel like I didn't talk too much, but I just want to know any quick thoughts about anything, anybody.
Yeah, Ron, I just want to thank you, man, for another session. I've been listening to you for over 10 years, man. I don't know how many times, I can't count how many times that I've heard you speak. And every time I learn something, even if you say the same line 10 times in a row, I learn something from it. So I appreciate what you've given us, what you've given me, and what you provide this group, because, you know, there's insight, intellect, direction, appreciate it. And you know, the only thing we can do is work to be just a little bit of what Ron Chisolm is, man. Appreciate you.
But Greg, thank you, you know, but I'm honored to work with brothers and sisters, man. You got some beautiful brothers and sisters that are doing important work, doing good work, to be together for that many years. You know, you know, we could learn what did you, don't forget, whatever the ingredients you did to keep together, y'all need to write it down, because it's not an easy task to keep brothers or any group of color together. But your indicator for this group to let you know, how do you know when you're doing effective organizing? And, you know, see, because white folks gonna do what they're gonna do, and we got some black folks. You can go to historically black college, and when you go, you better make sure you ask them do they deal with systemic racism. Because being all black don't mean we taking care of business too. Because sometimes we got to get that money, get that white dollar. You understand? And we got to play certain games. Because there's been some historically black colleges don't want to talk about what we're talking about now. So you might get a cultural base, which is important, because going to white dominant culture, you can lose a lot, because that's why a lot of black folks wind up going back to Howard, because, you know, because they give you some rootness. You know, white people don't give it, they give you white culture. And white culture is a process of taking your life away. You know, because what white culture does, they rely on stuff to keep them going. The privilege to be, you know, what has kept us together was our family, was our food, was our music. Like Sister May, that's what keeps us alive. Ain't no program gonna do that. That's why you gotta keep some music, telling a joke. Ain't gotta be about racism, you gotta laugh. I laugh a lot, because that keeps me going. I tell jokes, I do all that kind of stuff. I'm serious about my work, but I gotta do something to talk about racism. It can take you away. So if you want to know if you're ahead of the game, you know, like in Black Men's Group, you've been, because you keep bringing brothers on, and you know, and you connected to your women. You know, you're a Black group. You're making sure women are part of this. Like the sister said earlier, you can't disconnect our family, because we got Black groups talking about, you know, I don't want to deal with my man, I want to deal with my woman. What kind of shit is that? I don't want to deal with the children, all that kind of. People do that. I guess sister was saying, Andrew was saying, it's really, you know, that's the influence of white people. And we're influenced, we don't even know it. That's why you gotta do organizing in an anti-racist way, because the organizing in an anti-racist will detox us from the white dominant culture because it's in us. It plays out all the damn time. You say, not me, we all black. It plays out. They've done a job on us already. So all the work we're doing with black men is to not only help other people, but to get some of that negative shit out of us. That's why we in partnership as a black man group. We ain't just doing it for the black community. The black community doing some shit for us. And y'all work with white people too, and them being around y'all, they get more life sometimes. That's why white people hang with us, because they get more life from us than they get from their own system. And if you're not careful, if they're around you too much and you don't understand what's going on, they'll take the life out of your ass too. Excuse the language. So anyway, but brother Ryan, thanks for the time, and I hope what I'd like to do is, if we can get 10 or 20 people to do a real workshop, like like get somebody to help write stuff on a board and stuff like that. We've been talking about it, but I'd be honored to do that. Right now, we just got to have a certain amount of time and we limited. But and we got to do it a lot of people because, you ain't got even 100 people. We got 5 or 10 people ready to do that work, then we'll do it, and it ain't got to be just a black group, like open to anybody. So Brother Brian, is back on you, bro.
Thank you again, Elder Ron. You are truly the foundational pillar of the Black Men's Group. If anybody wants to kind of see a little bit of history, they can visit our website, put that in the chat. Put your information in the chat. I see that Sister Angie put a website, that Path of Empowerment. Visit her website, support her. We need to support each other. We got a hashtag going on called hashtag Black Men's Group Approved. So if you have a black business, if you got a black run organization, we take a picture of yourself and send that to us. We've got a Gmail address. Our Gmail address is theblackmensgroup, gmail@gmail.com, or put something in the comments at our website, so we can support you. We want other people to know about what you're doing. We want you to know about what we're doing and spread the word. Mother's Day is coming up. We have an annual pre-Mother's Day celebration that we do for our eldership at the Oasis, which is a Black run facility. We're doing the same thing pre-Father's Day in June. I think we got an outing that's coming up in May. So, stay tuned with us. We fellowship, but we serve. And then, the thing we're trying to get stronger through the encouragement of from Elder Ron is to bring people to the understanding of systemic racism and what the move is to do something. So it's important that that we do something. We didn't just hear this like some people do at church and hear a sermon and then just be like, that felt good for me, and then just go on. We're like, what's the next move? What is your next move? So we as the Black Men's Group have been empowered and have been recharged. But as individuals, what are our moves? Every one of you all are leaders in your circle. So build, strengthen that circle. There's a lot of stuff to talk about, y'all, from the verdict to all the other crime and crazy things that just happened against, us and our people, and the crime that we're doing to ourselves. So, a lot of work needs to be done, and we congratulate I know all of you all, and I know all the great work that you're doing, and so we congratulate that. We can't rest on the mountain. The mountain is a climb. We got to get to the top. And so thank you, Elder Ron, for helping us get recharged, to get back on the mountain, back on the grind, back on the climb. And so we will revisit this again in August, with Elder Ron's permission. We want to bring him back. And we want you to come back with other people, because just like what Big Papa Greg Ellis said, every time he's heard Ron hundreds of times, but every time he gets something new, and that's what it's about.
You can say to you, Brother Brian, I hope at some point, even before August, that we can talk about spending a half a day together, 4 or 5 hours together, and talking more about organizing with people that, especially the ones here now, and anybody else that been to it, welcome to come. But folks willing to spend time where we can really talk more. It's about the work you're doing. It's not about whether you like what I said or don't like it. Ain't what it's about. It's about, if you say you're about making changes, that's what we want people to talk about, making changes in our lives, in our community. That's what I spend time on it.
Yeah.
I talk about race. I talk about racism because that has been the factor to keep us down. And then once we begin to understand it, not only will we be effective, it's going to liberate us to see it. It's going to take them cloudy lens off our eyes.
Yeah.
And that's what's so big. That's what racism put lens on our eyes. And to be a good organizer. And then when you decide you want to hang it up, then all what you all been teaching, the ideology and philosophy, when you decided to leave out, somebody kidnap you or whatever happens, what you've been teaching to others will continue because it's not dependent on one individual on the Zoom, not dependent on Ron Chisolm. Right now, I've been for 40 years, and I know right now, I got people all over the country would come up to me and say, Brother Chisolm, you ought to go check that Undoing Racism workshop out, man. And I didn't tell them I started it, but when I hear that all over the country, I know what we've been teaching is out there. I can't bring it back if I wanted to.
Yeah.
So what I've done is not a dependency. It's an interdependency model. They ain't dependent on me because I can't carry that weight. But there's enough people that have developed from this process, even in Indianapolis, have benefited. And sometimes things will happen to people because it's in Indianapolis and we're talking about systemic racism. So I hope at some point people on the Zoom decide you may want to do something. They'll get back with you, Brother Brian, and see if they're interested in spend a little time together, and go more deep into it if they'd like to. So I thank y'all for the time. It's been, your energy has been good for me. With Sister Mays and Sister Angela, y'all have, and there may be some other sisters I don't see them on my Zoom, but y'all, y'all contributions was unbelievable.
We love
y'all just came out the gate, and so Dan, you're a bad sister. I don't know, you just, you put it out there in a good way. So that's what we're talking about. That's family, and it's a Black family right there. So take care of yourselves, take care of the children. And Brother Greg, we talk some more. And it's a pleasure, Greg. And remember, we talk anytime we want to talk about some other stuff we need to talk about, just give me a buzz.
Will do, man.
All right.
We'll because this is being recorded, if anybody, we know Brother Ron's got to go, but if anybody wants to just make a public statement, sometimes a public statement helps your charge. So if anybody wants to make a statement, it's being recorded, please say something, because we want the world to know what you're doing and what you're charged to do. So I don't want to pick on anybody, but I know some folks that got things to say about what they're doing and everything like that. And I'd love to hear from you, to say it publicly, because we're proud of you. So Angie, do you want to say anything about your webpage and how we can support you there?
Basically what it is just, it is called Path to Empowerment. And it's rebuilding the royal reputation of our people. So basically it's an interactive, it's a blog site, but it's interactive, gives you things to think about, like all the things that we talked about tonight, a lot of things that we talked about tonight, and a lot more when it comes to growing and moving and not just talking, but actually going into action, and just things to think about and just sharing those things like we're doing here. So that's basically what it is. And I want to say earlier, when it comes to, I know King Ron, he said, he mentioned about how sometimes we can't get together as a community, as a people, but keep in mind that we are always obliged to linking up with other businesses, other types of people. We go to Asian shops, we buy Chinese food, we get our nails done at Chinese shops. You know, we don't go to Black shops. Like, we don't know a whole bunch of Black people that do nails and hair. You know, it's okay for us to go to, you know, BP and give, no offense, but give Alibaba our money. Nobody says, can I get a hookup on pump 2? You don't go to a Chinese shop and say, can I get a hookup on this weed? But when we are doing Black business, we always want to hook up. And then when we don't get that, there's something wrong with us. There's something wrong with not having that unity. You know, we don't ever really want to empower one another. And I think leadership is, like you said, accountability. Leadership is accountability, where you want to lead and you can be a gatekeeper for those that are not ready. But when you lead, you want to have other people beside you to lead with you. It's about
independence is what he called it. That's good. Now look, spit out that I know we got it in the chat, but spit out that that web address, and we're gonna support you.
Pathtoempowerment.org.
Pathtoempowerment.org. Thank you. All right. Sister Lejeune, I see you hiding in there, but you got to tell us what you do. You got to tell people what you do, because Sister Lejeune, if you give her a message, she's going to, in her circle, spread that message on Facebook, on email, and all that sort of thing. So she is just really an empowering person. Are you on there, Sister Lejeune?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Well, say something.
Hi, everybody. I had a great time this evening. It was wonderful. And I think that's the second time I heard Brother Ron, which was a wonderful time. I was just thinking back at the first time I got to do Undoing Racism at Child Advocate. I was at DCS, and I was there for 20 years. And he just he stepped on my toes then, he stepped on my toes now. I had changed my whole perspective after I got my master's in social work, and I was like, I can't get my license here at DCS. I had to step out. I had to definitely step out on faith and leave. Like I said, been there 20 years, leave after going up the ladder. And as I went up the ladder, it seemed like it was worse and worse. But now I work in a small community healthcare center in this Raphael Health Center on the corner of 34th and Central. And what my passion is I use my LCSW, I use my license now to coordinate both mental health and physical health, and really kind of talk to our providers who are, I always say, y'all the Noblesville Fishers, people who coming down here to help us, whatever. But my point is, I always bring it out in regards to just the discussion of, you're like, why you didn't take, why are you not being compliant? And I'm like, don't ask them people that. Don't ask anybody. Why are you not being compliant? Once you talk a little bit more, I know you got a timetable, you got, 20 minutes to give, but what's happening in their lives? You hear all about the killings and stuff that might affect them. You hear about all of these different things. And so I have no problem stepping on toes, because I get my toes stepped on a lot of times. But I don't know what it is, maybe just changing my viewpoint, changing my as I get older, as you say. It was wonderful because I felt like I was stifled and was not able to say anything when I was at DCS, and I can just say whatever I feel like now because I don't care. It's not that I'm gonna try to burn bridges. I would never do that, because I still have some people who still work there that I truly care about. It was just that I've seen so many people go through the Undoing Racism and rolling their eyes and wasn't paying attention and not really caring and not bringing anything to the table, even when they went back to work, and how they are working with families. And it's just so many different, it wasn't just black and white, it was the overall not even caring for human beings. And so with that in mind, that's my charge. Again, what I love about I don't know, no job that's gonna be perfect. It's none.
No.
But what I do like about the position that I'm in is that when I speak is trusted. Now, how they go with it, they know I'm saying it out of the goodness. Sometimes I have to put the mirror out to you, like you thinking the wrong thing. I mean, we have conversations. I know you're not supposed to talk about religion. You're not supposed to talk about politics. You're not supposed to talk, but people do. And so with that in mind, I know I'm just giving one example. I know y'all gotta go. This one example I said to one of our doctors there. He was talking about, my family really doesn't need the stimulus check. Da 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 da. And I was like, okay, I hear you. I don't know what your income is. I'm not gonna ask you about your income. I know your family structure, but I was like, it wasn't about you. You're not in the point. And anything that has been given to you is a blessing. And if you don't think you need it, or you don't think, you want it, or you don't want it from that president, or whatever, how it came to be, then you work with so many people who are struggling. Put it in some kind of fund. Put it in some, had that mindset. But I was like, we're not gonna talk about that. How many people have been out of work and they face to face? I did not skip a beat. I was at work. I don't get to go home and work. I don't. Even if we still saw patients. And so I was in the midst of COVID people.
Wow.
And yes, I got COVID. And I didn't get that opportunity to be in my, be at home and on my computer and teach my kids while they were here.
Well,
and so with all those dynamics, I'm just saying all of this just like Greg said, and I miss you, Greg. Just like he said, it was definitely just hearing different things. You learn different things, and then you have to put yourself in it and say, hey, what am I going to do different?
Right.
How am I going to do some stuff different? So
well, we thank you, and we anticipate your great.
Jim.
Daryl Morton.
Yes, sir.
Tell us something. I'm gonna give you and Chandler, y'all get what you call a preacher's 1 minute.
Where do you want me to go, man? Give me
man, what you do, man. What's your steps, the things that you do? How is this going, work towards the cause, brother?
Well, the things that I do, I'm a published author. I like reaching kids. My material, I try to put information in them that will help them kind of maybe see themselves, I like to put them in the shoes of my characters. And if I really break down my books, my characters are my friends from my old neighborhood. And so it's us. It's taking what we did, trying to twist it a little bit and educate kids. So that's my passion. I never thought I'd be in this position to be able to do this, because the only reason I ever wrote the first book is because it was a challenge. And, after that, people really started to, get help and request them. And, that's what keeps me going.
Well, keep going on, man. Keep on going on for the cause. I appreciate you. Jermichael Fan, I know you the family man over there, and you like, look, I gotta be with my kids, man. I gotta watch my kids. But man, just what's your charge? What are you gonna do, man, now that you have gotten recharged with this information?
Really, I want to get some more continued education on it, and just what Ronald Chisolm was saying. I want to be able to get in the group that he's trying to come up with us, and I just want to get continued education on it, so that way, when I am speaking it in existence to other people, of other people, even my kids. I want to be able to organize and be a group organizer in the right way. But as of now, I'm gonna go over my notes, keep them in mind, and make sure that I'm leading in a in an awesome way.
You're a good gatekeeper. You are a good gatekeeper. Let me tell you that based on those.
I won't be the bad gatekeeper.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother.
You're
Dr.
welcome.
Virgil, man, just give it to us, man. I already know what you're doing, but we appreciate you. Just drop it on us on what you are going to continue to do.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Carter. I am going to be disseminating the research that I've done with Black men, and we're going to be talking about its absolute direct implications for structural racism. And if I could be on the lookout, because in another month or so, we'll be sending out some surveys. So if you gentlemen could help us out, we greatly appreciate it.
I'll help out on this survey.
Cool.
Thank you.
We're gonna bring the brothers.
We appreciate it.
We're gonna bring the brothers. Speaking of the brothers, this young man, this my son, Malachi Carter, man, just tell us what you're doing, what's up, what's the word on the street, what's happening, man, with the the millennials, the Zers, whatever you got, drop it on us, man.
Well, I don't know all of them out there. So. But one thing I'll put it in the chat, one thing I'm doing is just continuing to be in developing myself as an anti-racist teacher. I feel like every time I get a new batch of students, within the first 2 to 3 weeks, I'm trying to undo everything that's been done or so many things that's been done to them by the American educational system. So whether that's presenting myself as a teacher who actually cares about them and their education and well-being in the class, to literally teaching them that Black history is not just 2 paragraphs that were in their history books back when they were students. And I teach at a high school for adults, so for some of them, I'm rectifying harm that was done to them years ago, and then for the younger ones, within a few months ago or a few years ago. So,
yeah. All right, man. Well, keep in the fight, man, and keep being educated and pursuing higher heights. You're diamond, brother. You're diamond. All right, the Reverend Doctor, the good advocate, the West Side advocate of Indianapolis, the one and only Mr. Chandler. Please wrap us up.
I'm not worthy. Hey, we're just trying to create an ecosystem for youth, especially in technology and STEM, and trying to create a pipeline into those careers at a younger age. And so just really trying to tap into all the resources. Black Man's Group is food for the courage. I really would love to be down with the struggle real hard, Nat Turner type, but there's some kids that need our services. And so we're trying to work with them and have an ecosystem where they're all a part of it and helping them in all kinds of ways, with their talents, with their treasure, and with their with what they can do, just dealing with youth. And so we're also more and more getting into Black wealth. And so with that, kids and adults as well. And so what we really do is find that adults are wanting to get the information too. So we invite them in, because what we would like for them to do is to be able to have those conversations at the breakfast table, at the dinner table, as opposed to us not eating together or us talking about other things while our counterparts are talking about investments and careers and all that stuff. And so we want parents to be able to lead those conversations at the dinner table. And so we're trying our best and working with different groups, and this proud association with the Black Man's Group. Brian, you looking good, man. I almost want to ask you out for a date, but
Man, you on recording? Don't mess me up.
but I met Brian, man, and was so impressed, and so been tagging along with him all the way. So kudos for what you guys are doing, and you're helping us here on the west side, and so we look forward to continued relationships.
Hey, east side, west side, north side, south side, it's all we need to get on the right side and push towards the side, you know, of just ending racism and empowering our people. So with that being said, I'm gonna go out with the BMG promotional commercial for all of those that are watching this in recording. BMG wants you to be a part. Visit our website, all that sort of thing. So we'll go out that way. Good night, everybody. And I appreciate you guys signing out. Till next time. Let's see.
My name is Greg Ellis, and I am BMG.
My name is Malachi Carter, and I am BMG.
My name is Tyrone Chandler, and I am BMG.
My name is Hugh Hunter, and I am BMG.
My name is Eric Saunders, and I am BMG.
Willis Wright, I am BMG.
My name is Durant Schrader, and I am BMG.
My name is Dwight Holland, and I am BMG.
Dante Brown, I am BMG.
My name is Daryl Morton, and I am BMG.
My name is Eric Davenport. I am BMG.
My name is James Perkins, and I am BMG.
I'm Michael Fan. I am BMG.
My name is Justin Tillis. I am BMG.
I'm James Gibson, and I am Black Man's Group.
Who is BMG? BMG is young men, seasoned men, sons, dads, mentors. BMG is all about our community, our youth, our elders, our returning and recovering citizens, and undoing systemic racism. BMG is you, brother. Join the Black Man's Group.